Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Pricing Guys. I'm Michael.
And I'm Avy.
So, just giving you fair warning here, this is going to be the last episode we do of the season, but we will be back in the fall. And we thought we'd do something a little fun today. So, a couple weeks ago, we asked everyone if they had any questions, topics, submit. So, we got one from Dan from Texas. And Dan was asking us, what is our opinion on what people are calling for the chief pricing officer? So I don't know, Avi, like I heard a lot of people, a lot of people on LinkedIn posting about this, or we need this job, and like a lot of like kind of, I've seen a couple comics on there talking about that. What are your thoughts, chief pricing officer?
Yeah, I think before I get there, I want to build on the comment you were just making about what you're seeing kind of posted out there. I've seen a lot of this stuff too, that, and I'll set it up for the audience. It'll be something like everyone's sitting in a boardroom and no one knows what to do, and the pricing person knows what to do. Or that sales is giving away a ton of value, or the marketing doesn't know how to quantify any of that value, and kind of pricing stepping in and saving the day across the company.
Yeah, I've seen the thing like firefighting and policing and things like that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the theme that Dan was trying to get at is, as we see it's such a core business capability, do we need to elevate that function within the organization and enable these roles, like, for example, a chief pricing officer within the organization, just like you would set up your chief marketing officer, chief sales officer. So I think that's the kind of prompt. For me, I'm like, I struggle with it because I don't like the concept that you need a title to be able to execute your job. And I think that's one thing that I struggle with. The second thing is that I think...
So your thought is like, hey, just elevate someone, give them a title, and they're going to all of a sudden like get results, I guess?
Well, my thought is that is exactly what will not happen. Like, if all that is someone is holding someone back is having the title, like anytime someone ever tells me, hey, just hand me the ball and I can score touchdowns, I'm like, hey, why don't you just catch the ball or throw the ball or run the ball?
Yeah.
Go score the touchdowns. You don't need to wait for anyone's kind of permission. It's a competitive sport. No one's waiting to like ask your opinion. Like, go get involved, participate, go. You don't need a title.
No, but you know what? You hit the nail on the head, because when people ask me about this, and when I think about this whole like chief pricing officer, like the role of pricing, and they need like a more of a seat at the table. My question is, go take that seat at the table, and why don't you have it today?
Yeah.
Because I think it's a mindset in the organization, and is a mindset of value. If the organization isn't ready to have a value mindset to make sure and that they're not giving away value, and they're not discounting, and they're not doing crazy things, and that they're upholding their pricing strategy, then that organization is going to be successful. But if they don't have that mindset, if that mindset doesn't exist, you could put Michael Jordan, the Michael Jordan of pricing, to be your chief pricing officer, whoever they want, whatever you want to call them, and it's not going to make a difference. You're just going to frustrate the person. They're going to try policing, and nothing is going to happen. It's just a glorified position for the sake of having a position and pretending like you're something that you're not. It's not necessarily a person that's going to change, or a department. It has to be an organizational mindset. And everyone in the organization, all the way from the executives who sit there today, need to have that mindset to actually create the change that they see.
I think that it makes a lot of sense. And when you talk about organizational mindset, it's talking about things like, if I have to come and send you an email and say, you're not going to do this because you didn't think about X, Y, Z, and here's what the guideline is. I mean, that's not ideal. What I would rather have is that I've enabled your team to think about, hey, here's how we actually tier our products and our services. Here's how you think about different customer segments. Here's why we have our pricing set up in this way. And here's how it enables you to get to your goals, our shared goals, right? Both the growth targets that we're going after and the dollars that we're looking for from the bottom line. And if you need a title to kind of go and get that done, you're not doing your job, right?
Yeah, I think that it goes a long way. Like you talked about those shared goals, and I think one of the things that a lot of organizations don't think about is they don't think about, well, how do I actually enable some of these strategies? What's the broader go to market strategy? Do I have the right incentives in place? Because if you don't have any of that, you could have the best strategy, but if the people aren't on the same page, they're not incented, and they don't think that they're going after the same thing, you're just going to have heads butting and you're just going to start a race to the bottom. And I think one of the biggest things that I see is that a lot of people in the organization don't understand the strategy. And albeit whether it's like the broader corporate strategy or even the pricing strategy, like they don't understand, especially when it comes to like sales folks. Are we doing enough to enable them to get them to understand here is the decision we're making and here's why these guidelines are in place and here's why we're doing these things because we're trying to capture X goal or this is what we're going after. And a lot of the time, like they're clueless. They're just kind of, in their own little world and they don't truly understand what's happening.
You know, one of the oftentimes we'll go get involved with a company or we'll ask people to do kind of roadmap assessments and kind of gauge where companies are from a pricing capabilities perspective. And, especially when we're talking to pricing people, they're going to say that, you know what, we're amazing. We've got all these capabilities. We've got these data models in place. And where I like to get to, and I think we're if your team is discharging what they should be doing is if you're at the C-suite, that your C-suite says when you talk to them about pricing, we use pricing as a competitive differentiator and it gives me sustainable competitive advantage. It's something that my competition doesn't have and I can use it to drive strategic advantage. Like when I go down a level and I talk to sales, sales says, you know what, my the pricing function, it allows me to focus on selling and not pricing. The marketing function saying that, hey, it helps us actually safeguard the value that we're creating out there in the market. And then the finance team, they're saying we're maximizing EBITDA because we're good at pricing. And then as we work our way down and we talk to our channel partners are saying this is a great supplier to us because they build value for us. And then lastly, our customers are saying, the pricing is intuitive. I get what they're doing. And when I go ahead and reframe it like that to these kind of pricing individuals within these organizations, do you have this from top to bottom? And if you don't have this from top to bottom, you can't be a world-class pricing organization. It's just impossible because you don't have that organizational mindset there.
Yeah, but I would argue that there's very, very, very few organizations that I've seen over the course of doing this for many, many years that actually have that from top to bottom.
Should be the goal, though, right?
Oh, 100%. It should be the goal.
Like,
right?
that's the report card.
Yeah, it should be the goal, and, everyone's kind of going for that gold medal, but it is hard to do.
Yeah.
Because it is a mind shift change. And I think the biggest fear that I have is that people look at a pricing organization or like a chief pricing officer or building out these giant teams, and you can see that they're going to fail before they even take off the ground because they haven't made that organizational mind shift with all the other people in the organization. Like there was someone the other day and I saw an org chart where they were building out this massive, I think it was a 20-person pricing team. And they had we have data scientists, we have these people in this channel, we got these people in this channel, we have analysts and managers and all this stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I know who's on the sales and I know who's on the finance side and the executives. And they don't view pricing as a strategic lever. It's just firefight. It's like firefighting and they just use it to kind of, oh my God, the world is burning. We got to do this. I'm thinking all this data, all this insight that you're going to generate. How are you're not going to be able to implement any of it. It's just going to be, you're going to fall down and you're going to have spent all this money and the results aren't going to be there because you haven't made that fundamental shift in the sales organization, in the finance organization, in the executives who are running it. They don't have that fundamental shift of mindset to say, here's how we're using this as a strategic lever.
I think it's absolutely right. And I know exactly that org chart you're talking about because, the departments they had kind of a data science team that was going to build models. Then they had kind of a strategy team that's going to come up with revenue management strategy. Then they had this team that's going to look at like innovation and those types of things. Then they had their channel teams. So as I was kind of sitting back, because we had done some work for this team, and I'd gotten great results. And this team, like the executive team, is totally on board in terms of getting these results and continuing to get the results. And that's why they invested and they put so much trust in this individual who's building up kind of this gigantic team. The problem is, at the end of the day, even how they're designing that team, it's so siloed. And ensuring that the strategy is understood, that they can communicate what these organizational goals are, that they can go after them in an aligned, balanced manner that looks at the value we're creating, the competition that we've got out there in our financials, like, it's going to be very, very tough to have the team streamlined like that, right? And I think as we add more, I think what happens is, a team like that, it starts cranking out recommendations. And then they get very frustrated because, hey, no one's implementing this. And a natural thing is, you know what? We're just too far down in the organization. Let's just, if we get shoved up, if we get elevated up to directors, or if we get elevated up to the C-suite, or if we get elevated up to the board of directors, then it's all going to fall into place. But, I mean, this is kind of, it's not necessarily saying what the core issue is. Like, if you can't get this done, there's something else that's going on and that's going on wrong here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, kind of coming full circle to that question from Dan is like, what are our thoughts on chief pricing officer? Look, I think it's what's going to happen next. Like, you need a chief costing officer. You need
you're going to be the best at procurement. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. I guess
chief supply officer.
Everyone, how many chiefs are we going to have, right? Like, it's. I don't see an issue with pricing where it sits today in a lot of organizations. I think it's more of a people issue and not getting that alignment, as opposed to, hey, we need an elevated title. Because you're right, that elevated title, right? It's not going to do anything if you can't change the minds and the hearts of the people around you and get them on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's definitely where the focus needs to be. And also, as we talk about that strategy, how the various stakeholders around pricing or revenue growth management should be looking at you. I mean, that needs to be the North Star, irrespective of what kind of titles you're putting around it. But it's really kind of the substance over form
100%,
argument.
Substance over form.
So I know this ties up the last episode of season 1.
Yeah, we're going to take a little bit break in the summer, catch some sun, maybe hit a beach or something.
That's it. See. We'll come up with some new topics for next year. What we're planning on doing is a little bit of a mix. So we're not only going to be tackling kind of pricing in the news and what we're seeing, we're also going to be taking topics from listeners and viewers, and we're also going to be bringing some guests onto the show. So we'll be working our way through that, trying to mix it up a little bit. If there's any additional thoughts, we're happy to take this in any which direction that'll bring you the most value as we go through things.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you in the fall.
Thank you.